and I found some reviews on the Rainmaker, the 1956 movie. That'd be interesting to read these. The drama of human emotion. N. Richard Nash adapted his play for the silver screen. Directed by Joseph Anthony, this is a wonderful insight into the core of human emotion, a hard glimpse at the look of low self-esteem. Katharine Hepburn plays Lizzie Curry, a young woman that lives with her father and brothers in a dusty Perry town. She is led to believe she will become an old maid. She of course, has more brains than beauty, and her emotions tell her that she needs to become a woman. A woman. Enter Bill Starbuck, played by Burt Lancaster. Starbuck is a con man constantly on the move, blinking his way through life. He convinces the Curie family he can end the drought by making it rain. He ends up in the barn with Miss Lizzie. Now she feels a new world has opened up to her. Deputy File is too shy to tell Lizzie of his interest in her until he finds Starbuck with her and wants to arrest him for his previous bad deeds. Lizzie has to make a big decision between the side of law and order or life-changing dreams with the Wanderer. This movie deserves to be called a classic. The deep human element and the diverse relationships within the characters makes for a very interesting movie. Scenery and language may seem at times a bit honky, but the realism is there. Great movie. I definitely think this story is a good drama of human emotions. Taking a look at the insecurities of each family member and the dynamics within the family. But of course, the movie focuses more on the romance, so it's more about the human emotion that's going on within Lizzie Curie. When I was younger and first saw this movie, what caught my eye was the stagey production, the overripe acting. I was wrong. It's funny, but being a late 30-something divorcee with my own self-esteem issues, I now watch this movie and marvel at its depth. This is a movie about so much more than a con man, an old maid, and people stuck and unable to change. It's really about loving yourself. We've all heard the saying that you have to love yourself before someone else can love you. And that is what this movie is about. Believing in yourself even when that's the hardest thing. It's really the crux of the movie. I agree with that. That definitely seems to be a theme in all the stories, not just the movie, but in the play and the musical. There are films that age well, and there are films that age very well. So well, in fact, that they almost feel timeless somehow, because everything works so perfectly, or near perfectly, that the film feels flawless. This is not one of those films. Based on the stage play of the same name, which was loosely based on a real man, it was? Really? I didn't know that. The Rainmaker, directed by its own original stage handler, Joseph Anthony, is the story of a plain woman in danger of becoming an old maid. Her unacquainted love for the town sheriff, her dysfunctional family, and their encounter with the dashing, charismatic con man known as Bill Starbuck, who, helps Lizzie become a real woman, unleashing her, true beauty or some such. I hear the sarcasm from here. He even manages to get it to rain during their drought. Overlong, slow pacing, and obvious inexperienced direction of a motion picture film versus the live stage result in an awkward, unpleasant soap opera that could have been better had it focused on neither just the dysfunctional family or the social ramifications of the con man's effect on the town during the drought. Also not helped by the very old-fashioned, outdated ideology of its core characters, despite how hard it tries to be a sensitive examination of the hopes and dreams of regular people. I do agree that I think the film, and I've said this in my past videos, I do agree that the film would have been better if it focused on the family. There's so much more interesting things to unpack if you focus on the relationship between the father, the brothers, and Lizzie. And sure, I guess you could say that the ideas of this story is old-fashioned and outdated, but I don't think there's anything old-fashioned and outdated about love. So how they go about it might seem a bit strange. I do agree with that, but I don't think the main theme of the story, which I think is about believing in yourself and loving yourself, is outdated and old-fashioned. I don't agree with that at all. One of the biggest sins is the miscasting of Katharine Hepburn as the plain Lizzie. The first obvious flaw is that Hepburn, who is pushing 50 at the time, oh my gosh, is clearly too old for the character. Everyone reaches to her as if she still has time to start a family of her own, which she very much wants. making it all the more awkward, if not outwardly bizarre, to watch a middle-aged woman grapple with adolescent issues, as well as offsetting a number of her scenes with other characters. She's supposed to be the daughter, but looks and feels like she should be his wife. He was only 14 years older than Hepburn in real life, a case where an actor couldn't pull it off. And instead of a young woman full of sexual frustration in her scenes with Lancaster, she feels like she should be the widow he takes advantage of. Wow. I didn't know Hepburn was that old. I was assuming she was like in her early 40s, maybe, but I did not know she was almost 50 at the time. And only being 14 years younger than the dad in the movie. That's a little strange. I did talk about in my video reacting to the movie that I thought it seemed a little strange that she seemed older than even her brothers, and she seemed just a little off to me playing the Lizzie character, because Lizzie is older, probably in her 30s at that point in the story, but Catherine seemed much older than that. And so knowing now that she was going on 50, like, yeah, she was definitely probably a little too old for the role. Then there's the idea that Hepburn was so ungodly unattractive that she could only ever be plain, when even a middle-aged Hepburn still had some beauty about her. I couldn't help being reminded of Kate's role in Bringing Up Baby, where she also played a woman hung up on a man, and she felt just as miscast there as she does here. Perhaps some of it was her real-life personality shining through, but the boy-man crazy types were never her strong suit. I agree with that. Now, I did say in my reaction video that I think it actually worked that Hepburn was considered plain, because just her look, she seemed older, so you could consider that as being unattractive, as plain and simple. But I definitely did not mean that she wasn't pretty or beautiful or whatever. She was still really pretty. But I think it worked in her favor to be older, to make the concept of Lizzie being plain work in the film. It seems like Hepburn would act better if she played characters that were more serious and more strict and more headstrong, just because of, one, her looks, and two, I think I agree. I think it's her personality that's kind of shining through a little bit, and it seems like she just would be better playing more serious characters than the more naive, wishful character that is Lizzie. But it is kind of funny that everybody's like, oh my gosh, Hepburn is so plain, but she was still pretty. Like, I do agree that it was probably just a miscasting. They should have cast somebody younger and somebody who could play that role better, just because that person has a better strong suit for that type of a character. Is there a 5-minute sequence anywhere in this movie where someone isn't neither laughing, crying, yelling, throwing a punch, or more likely multiple characters doing all of the above? The movie was definitely dramatic, I would agree. And it did seem like certain characters, certain actors were possessed by multiple different personalities, especially Hepburn. Golly, she was angry one minute, then acting goofy and flirty the next, and then crying in the next scene. Like, she was everywhere. What a pleasing, warm, and emotional experience have I just had. The definition of a great movie is one that talks to you. And this one, with its universal themes of dreams and self-belief, did just that. Folks who complain about the cheesy sets and so on have missed the point. This is a film about the human condition. Each character has a place and is well crafted. Each character is properly formed. Loved that the Rainmaker developed as a character too. The ending was the best part. Full credit to the screenwriter in creating this piece. Fittingly to the themes he created, it is something worthwhile with his life. I personally think that a movie shouldn't be talking to you, it should be showing you. But that's just my personal opinion. I think The Rainmaker is not for everyone, so it's good that some people enjoy it. I loved this movie when I saw it 40 years ago, and I remember being dazzled by Burt Lancaster's performance. Seeing it again, Burt Lancaster's performance is still wonderful, but I see a lot more flaws in the film as a whole. People have weighted in on the central issue of Katharine Hepburn's performance. Some think it is a great performance, and some think she is miscast. I think both are right. She does a wonderful acting job filled with nice moments, but she is miscast in the role. She breaks what I will name now as the 7-year rule. While an actor or actress can easily always play older, they should never play a character more than 7 years younger than they are. You can get away with playing a high school student until you're about 24. Okay. After that, it looks fake. In this movie, Hepburn, who was 49 at the time, was playing a character who was supposed to be around 30. She could have passed for 42, but no one could have mistaken her for a 30-year-old. At 30, a woman desperate for a man to marry her is still a source of comedy. At 42, it is really a source for bathos? What does bathos mean? An effect of anticlimax created by an unintentional lapse in mood, from the sublime to the trivial or ridiculous. Still, at times she does make you look past her age and feel the depth of her emotion of the character. Adapted from a stage play, and it shows. The Rainmaker is officially a Western. It is set in a small-town oral town in the West, probably in the 1920s or 30s, but it bears little resemblance to most Westerners from the 50s. This was the decade when the cinema first faced serious competition from television, and spectacular Westerners featuring exciting action sequences shot against the dramatic scenery of the American West were one of Hollywood's major weapons in its fight against the newcomer. This film, by contrast, is adapted from a stage play, and it shows. The plot is a simple one. I have never seen the play on which The Rainmaker is based, so I do not know how well this story might work on the stage. I understand that it is a staple of the American theater, but on this side of the Atlantic, both the play and its author are virtually unknown. Unfortunately, the film does not work for me, and when I recently saw it on television, I was disappointed. I had been hoping for something far better, given that it stars two actors as talented as Burt Lancaster and Katharine Hepburn. Part of the problem is miscasting. Hepburn is quite wrong for the part of Lizzie for 3 reasons, namely age, looks, and personality. We never learn exactly how old Lizzie is, but I think we are supposed to assume that she is considerably younger than Hepburn's 49 years at the time the film was made, possibly in her 30s. Secondly, Lizzie is supposed to be plain, whereas Hepburn in her youth was considered one of Hollywood's most beautiful actresses, even in her late 40s. Thirdly, and most importantly, Hepburn spent most of her career playing strong, independent, and capable women, and is not really credible as a downtrodden, put-upon spinster lacking in self-confidence. I completely agree with this paragraph. It's definitely age, looks, and personality. She just seemed really odd in the part, that's all. It's not to be mean, it's just how it is. Some actors just don't go well with certain characters. My other problem with the film is to do with the direction. I was not surprised to learn that Joseph Anthony was a theatrical director who directed Nash's play on stage, but had never previously directed a movie, as he seems to have made this film on the basis that there was no essential difference between the two media. There is a little attempt to open the story out and little in the way of action. Most scenes take place indoors and consist mainly dialogue rather than physical action. The result is a static, talky film dominated by interminable conversations. Another reviewer claims that the film could have been far better had it been made by a major cinema director, who would have no doubt have escaped from the film theater style of filmmaking and made maximum use of the greater freedom which the cinematic mediums offer. Again, completely agree. This is probably the review that I agree with the most. Just because a story is originally from a play does not mean it can't be a really good film, but you have to know how to do that. You have to have knowledge and the tools in order to understand how to make a film, how to transfer a play into a film. And I guess the director, Joseph Anthony, did not know how to do that. Okay, I'm done reading reviews. It's been an hour. Hold on. In March 1956, Elvis flew to Hollywood for a screen test. He memorized and performed a scene from The Rainmaker, which was about to start filming. Elvis played the part of Jim Carrey, a headstrong young man, and all that remains of his test are a few black and white photographs, which are here overlaid on the same scene from the finished movie. So apparently Elvis was going to be in this movie. And I guess they decided not to have him on for whatever reason.
Good evening. Where the devil you been?
That's a flattering picture.
All the time I kept thinking, well, the same reason I gave her my elks tooth.
I think the actor they chose for the movie was good. Also, he looked like his older brother and father. So I guess just visual-wise, it makes more sense to have him play Jim. But it would have been cool to see Elvis play this character. I didn't know he was an actor. It's so sad that he didn't get the part. The photos seem wonderful. It's incredible that there are only stills of the screen test remaining, but thank you for putting this together. Many people I talked to about this doubt me, but I remember reading about it years ago. I don't think Elvis failed the screen test. I think the Colonel stepped in and said no, just like he did with Midnight Cowboy, True Grit, and A Star is Born. 3 major films Elvis was considered for. It's what he wanted to be taken seriously. I had no idea he was an actor. I always thought he was a singer, but I don't know much about Elvis Presley, so. It's always been my understanding that it was Colonel Tom who vetoed Elvis being in this movie. I've always liked Errol's acting, but I think Elvis could have brought more edge to the role, and being in a movie with Catherine and Burt would have brought him more credibility as an actor. But I don't think the character is an edgy character. Jimmy Curry is very much an innocent, naive, happy-go-lucky character, and I don't think somebody who maybe is more into edgier, darker roles would fit that kind of character. Unless he wanted to branch out his acting abilities, I don't think he would have been a good role if that's the type of actor he is, if that's the type of characters he's going for. Well, that was interesting. Did not know that.